delighted to introduce Dan and Tim from Collaboration of MPOs in Ohio. They're going to talk about how several MPOs came together to form kind of one program, one platform. So take it away, guys.
All right, thanks so much, Corey. Appreciate the introduction. My name's Dan, and we are excited to talk to you today about how we advanced our TDM programs and activities throughout the 7 metropolitan regions of Ohio. All right, so a little bit of background to better understand where we are today. I did think it'd be best to explain some of the background of where we came from. Our story begins in 2015, where the metropolitan regions of Ohio were focused nearly exclusively on static ride sharing, like carpool and vanpool, and we did this by mailing out printed PDFs of match-listed commuters who called in to inquire about ride sharing. We were also fragmented and broken up into 2 different groups amongst our 7 MPOs. Half of us administered the Rideshare Ohio program, while the other half operated the Ohio Rideshare program. Our online platforms were both incompatible and, to be frank, they were mostly ineffective at facilitating ride sharing, let alone exploration of other sustainable commuting modes. But you probably would have guessed based on the looks of our screenshot to the right, and it's not exactly an exciting or enticing example of what a web page could be. And so we obviously had some work to do, and fortunately many of our other Ohio partners felt the same way and were open to collaboration. We were able to rally the troops and collaborated to replace our existing incompatible systems with a new, unified, multimodal, and mobile-friendly transportation demand management platform. In order to improve our product offering and develop a new unified program, we knew we'd have to change the paradigm of how our services were delivered in Ohio. Static ride matching alongside the traditional media buys weren't enough to induce the behavior change we were hoping for. Once we understood that, we embarked on a 2-year journey to completely overhaul the program. We established a good faith effort amongst the 7 MPOs that we were all here to accomplish the same mission. After all, we do all grab from the same pot of CMAQ dollars to fund our programs. And we wanted to maximize the effectiveness of our efforts by joining together to deliver a unified statewide platform that accomplished our goals. To help set our goals and to get us on the same page, we applied for and received a local innovation grant fund to hire a consultant who could help point us in the right direction. We ended up hiring SIR out of Richmond, Virginia, and their team helped us understand the full scope of TDM and what it was, since it was a relatively new concept to Ohio at the time. And this, I think, is an especially important point because in a bottom-up effort such as this one, having a third party come in and recommend activities for us to accomplish really helped move us forward. Instead of one of us as peers telling the other agencies what to do, we were basically given best practices by an outside expert that we could all kind of rally around. So SIR helped us understand how to effectively implement TDM within our regional scope in our state. Their team helped reinforce our initial hunch that developing a unified program that offered a robust array of mobility options and that used incentive-based behavior change efforts was indeed the most effective way that we could see a reduction in VMT and an improvement in air quality in our region as a result of mode shift accomplished through the platform. After setting our goals and understanding our role, SIR helped us select a technology vendor that we all thought could help us reach our mutual goals, which ended up being Red Amigos. And in the final step of this process, we developed a unified brand that could be recognized around the state. So like I said before, we were all kind of separate and individual, or I guess fragmented. And then our design consultants, or I guess our graphic designers, they were very helpful and really took the time to understand what our goals were, what our mission was, and what kind of voice we wanted to have in reducing VMT throughout the state. And what we came up with was Gohio Commute, which we're all very excited about. We're new to the TDM party. We just launched in the late spring of 2017, but we are excited to be a part of the successful collaboration by many of these multiple regional entities. And we really do feel like we are stronger as a collective as opposed to our individual regions trying independently to accomplish the same thing. So overcoming barriers, this is basically our kind of lessons learned slide throughout the process. And we had to build consensus and get 8 agencies on the same page throughout the process, each agency had its own priorities that they wanted to see come to fruition. And this was a huge challenge that was handled well by bringing in that third-party consultant who was helped, or who really just helped us align our goals. We learned to acknowledge our differences while understanding our core values, and the goals that we had were pretty much the same. We determined all of our regional priorities could be accomplished with the technology vendor, Right Amigos, that we decided to go with. And finally, the leaders of this effort, we had to ensure that everyone's voice was heard and that their concerns were adequately addressed. In the end, we all acknowledged that not many of us will get exactly what we want as individual agencies, but through partnership and collaboration, we can make up for that difference. We discovered that a unified voice is powerful for influencing funders and the public, and that's seen through our growth, which Tim will talk a little bit about later. But even just our membership agencies, we've grown to 54 counties in 4 different states, which covers a base of 9 million residents. So, real quick, just wanted to highlight some of the goals that we as a collective have committed to achieving. And they're your typical TDM goals, like we want to provide commuting mode choices to the public. We want to reduce traffic congestion, improve air quality, and help commuters save money. And honestly, I don't think it's anything too groundbreaking. But what I do think is special about us is our ability as a collective to develop specific regional campaigns to achieve these goals. So we are a collective, but each of our individual agencies knows our populations best, and so that allows them to go in and develop campaigns that resonate well with the communities, local communities. And that being said, I now have the pleasure of turning over the presentation to Tim Kovac, who will go into a little bit more detail about his organization, NOACA, has developed Gohio Commute campaigns in the Cleveland area.
Okay, so as Dan noted, while we are largely a statewide partnership, each MPO manages the outreach and coordination efforts within its territory. And so we've been working on developing region-specific outreach efforts to businesses, universities, and other major organizations and employers in each of our metropolitan areas. And much like other TDM efforts, this involves coordinating with and identifying and coordinating with employee transportation coordinators, and working with them to create subsites and subnetworks on the Gohio Commute platform, helping them register their employees and promote the platform to their respective workforces, and then working with them to develop incentives and challenges as appropriate to increase the stickiness of the system and get people to actually take advantage of it. We've had a good amount of success here in Northeast Ohio getting major employers and institutions on board. This includes a particular note of activity that we've had in the University Circle area, which is the fastest growing part of the Cleveland metro area, and contains a lot of our major institutions and universities. So some of the organizations that have joined from University Circle include the Cleveland Clinic, which is the largest employer in the state of Ohio, University Hospitals, which is another one of our major hospital systems here, Case Western Reserve University, and the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. We got all of those organizations on board by working closely with the Neighborhood Community Development Corporation, which is called University Circle, Inc. They were actually in the process of exploring other TDM platforms when NOACA approached them in August of 2016, and that they were actually very close to signing a contract with one of those providers, which would have required an additional financial investment on their end. But we were able to intercede with them and convince them to go with Gohio Commute instead. And they've actually incorporated Gohio Commute seamlessly into their own website, which is called UGO. And they've used Gohio Commute as a way to facilitate the implementation of their own TDM efforts. NOACA acted as a facilitator among UCI, their own individual web designer, as I mentioned, and then Right Amigos to make sure that Gohio Commute was at the center of the platform and that people would be able to go from the UGO site to Gohio Commute without even knowing that they were changing from one address to another. And as a result of that work, there have been nearly 500 members registered through the UGO subsite, and they've logged over 11,000 total trips since we introduced the platform last spring. The OR Partners, which is our MPO collaborative, the Ohio Association of Regional Councils, we recognize that whereas with Ohio Rideshare and Rideshare Ohio, they were just static sites, as Dan mentioned, we really needed to stay on top of things with Gohio Commute to justify our investment and to see through our TDM efforts, and that required setting performance measures and then tracking our progress against them. And so last year, NOACA, MORPC, and then our colleagues in Youngstown at the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments held a series of meetings to discuss the concept of developing unified performance measures. We also consulted the relevant TDM literature and had some conversations with outside experts in other regions, including in the Arlington metro area outside of DC. The results of all those conversations were 4 different categories of performance measures. The first is user metrics, and those are things about how many people are on the system and how are they engaging with the system. Are they active? Have they created ride shares? Things like that. Outreach and promotion metrics, which is what are we doing as MPOs to make sure that we're getting new employers on the system, that we're engaging with those ETCs, that we're cultivating those relationships, getting them to create incentives and challenges. System-wide performance metrics, so those are the broader holistic benefits of the system: mode shift, reduced BMT, CO2 avoided, and then platform administration and enhancement metrics. And those are really some of the administrative side. How are we working with Ride Amigos to make sure that the system is enhancing the user experience and also making it easier for us as administrators to track our progress, enhance our project progress, and take advantage of the system that we're investing in. As obviously within each of those 4 categories, we've developed a list of specific measures to track, and we're tracking our progress quarterly, and we're going to be releasing our first annual report later this spring once we hit our 1-year mark in May. So to date, in only about 8 months, Gohio Commute has brought on over 23,000 users statewide in the 8 metropolitan areas. We have over 300 employer and university subsites and networks. We've logged nearly 50,000 non-SOV trips, which account for about 82% of all trips on the system. Obviously, that's not reflective of the actual larger population of commuting in the region because we're all at roughly 80 to 83% SOV rate. But we are really trying to make sure that people are using the system to log all of their trips, including SOV, so that we can get a sense of what progress we're actually making. Some of the broader system-wide benefits, we've had over 480,000 VMT avoided. We've mitigated over 135 tons of carbon dioxide. Users have burned over 3.5 million calories from active transportation, and they've saved over $155,000 in avoided commute costs. So going forward, the OARC partners are going to continue to reach out to organizations in order to expand the Gohio Commute platform and to create new incentives and challenges. An example of this is that in NOACA, we're currently operating a Valentine's Day themed carpool challenge called Share the Ride, Love the Ride, in which we're going to be providing a $100 restaurant gift card to 2 carpool users based on the number of raffles, the number of entries they get, which is based on the number of carpool trips that they log. In addition, here in Cleveland, we're also discussing options for upcoming Bike to Work Month in May with Bike Cleveland, our regional bike advocacy organization. And that includes potentially including bike as a mode in our Guaranteed Ride Home program, and then potentially doing another bike-related challenge in that month to reward people who log their bike trips. Additionally, OARC under Dan's tutelage is exploring the creation of a statewide TDM strategy, which would be focused on Gohio Commute, but would see Gohio Commute as one piece of a much larger TDM approach. This would be really innovative and forward-looking for the state of Ohio, where TDM just has not been a priority to the state. And so that's something that we're hoping to see some progress on going forward. Additionally, we're hoping to work and partner with additional MPOs and regions throughout the state in order to ensure that Gohio Commute's a truly statewide platform and not just kind of isolated in these metropolitan areas. And we've already started some fruitful conversations with 1 or 2 other areas who are not currently partnered on the platform to potentially expand it to their constituents as well. So with that, that's it for our program, and we're happy to turn it over to questions.
Thank you so much, Tim. And again, we are working to take up a little bit of time, or not to take up time, to recover a little bit of time here. So if you have questions for the Ohio guys, please go ahead and send those in, and we will get those answered and posted as part of the wrap up to this event. But we are going to, and so thank you, Tim, thank you, Dan. You all were great. Ohio is awesome. It's so exciting to see how you can kind of pull things together across an entire state that way.